Captain Lisa Murphy stood on the bridge of her ship, the UES Defiant. Through the large front window, she could see space filled with enemy ships. The alien fleet stretched out like a dark cloud against the stars. Their ships were huge and made of some kind of crystal that caught the light from nearby suns. Each ship was 3 times bigger than her largest vessel. Lisa counted them again, even though she knew the number by heart. 3,000 enemy ships against her small human fleet. Of 47 ships, the math was simple and brutal. The aliens had more ships, bigger weapons, and stronger shields. By every measure that mattered in space combat, the humans were about to be destroyed. The communication system crackled to life. The alien voice came through the translator, cold and mechanical like a computer reading numbers. Human vessel. This is Admiral Vexter of the Zephyrian Collective. We have analyzed your fleet composition, weapon systems, and tactical capabilities. Our strategic computers have calculated the probability of your victory in the coming battle. Lisa looked at her tactical officer, Lieutenant Jake Barnes. The young man was 25 years old and had been with her crew for 2 years. He was trying not to smile, which meant he was thinking the same thing she was. The aliens were about to make a big mistake. Our calculations show a 1.2% probability of human victory, the alien admiral continued. This is within acceptable parameters for what your species might call a miracle. We offer you one final opportunity to surrender. Your ships will be destroyed, but your crews will be allowed to live as workers in our mining colonies. Lisa walked to the center of the bridge. Around her, the crew of the Defiant waited for her response. These men and women had followed her through the Titan mining wars, where they had fought corporate security forces with nothing but converted cargo ships and pure determination. They had learned to win battles they should have lost, Chief Engineer. Carlos Rodriguez looked up from his console. He was a big man with thick hands that could fix anything mechanical. Captain, all ships are ready. The modifications we made to the engines are working perfectly. The aliens won't be able to predict our movement patterns. Communications Officer Amy Foster nodded from her station. All human ships are connected on the secure channel. They're waiting for your orders, Lisa smiled. It was the same smile she had worn during the Battle of Titan Station when corporate forces had surrounded her small fleet of mining ships. Everyone had told her to surrender then, too. Instead, she had used the asteroid field to hide her ships and picked off the enemy one by one. Admiral Vexter, she said, activating the communication system so every ship in both fleets could hear. Her words, I appreciate your offer, but I have a counter-proposal. The alien admiral's voice remained flat and emotionless. You wish to negotiate terms of surrender? No, Lisa replied, her voice carrying across the void to reach every human ship in the fleet. I want to tell you something about your calculations. You see, you made one small error. Our computational systems are incapable of error. We have conquered 17 star systems using these same tactical algorithms. What error do you claim we have made? Lisa looked around at her crew. Jake Barnes was grinning now, no longer trying to hide it. Carlos Rodriguez was chuckling as he ran final checks on the engine modifications. Amy Foster was already preparing to send the attack signal to the other human ships. Your error, Admiral, is that you calculated our chances of victory. Lisa said, but you didn't calculate your chances of survival. And if you're giving us a 1.2% chance of winning, then I guess you're doomed. The communication channel went silent. Lisa could imagine the confusion spreading through the alien fleet. The Zephyrians had never encountered humans before. They had built their entire military strategy around mathematics and predictable outcomes. They fought wars the way engineers built bridges, with careful planning and precise calculations, but humans didn't fight that way. Humans fought with instinct, creativity, and the absolute refusal to accept defeat. The aliens had studied human military history, but they had missed the most important lesson. When humans were cornered with no way out, they didn't surrender. They got angry. Captain, Jake Barnes reported from his tactical station, the alien fleet is moving into standard attack formation. They're trying to surround us, Lisa nodded. The Zephyrians were following their computer models perfectly. They would attempt to encircle the human fleet, then close in from all sides to minimize casualties to their own forces. It was a textbook maneuver that had worked against every other species they had conquered. "All ships, this is Murphy," she announced on the fleet communication channel. "You know the plan. Remember what we learned in the mining wars. These aliens think they can predict everything we're going to do. Let's show them how wrong they are." The human fleet began to move. To anyone watching from the outside, it looked like panic. The human ships scattered in different directions, their formation breaking apart completely. Some ships accelerated toward the aliens, others turned away as if trying to flee. A few ships seemed to be flying in circles. Admiral Vexler's voice came through the communication system again. "Human captain, your fleet appears to be in disarray. This confirms our calculations. Your crews are acting irrationally due to fear." Lisa laughed. "Admiral, you're about to learn something new about humans. We don't do anything the way you expect us to." On the tactical display, she could see the alien ships adjusting their formation. Their computers were trying to predict where the human ships would go, but the random movement patterns were making that impossible. The Zephyrian fleet was designed to work as a single unit, with every ship following the same strategic plan. "Carlos, are the engine modifications holding up?" Lisa asked. "Better than expected, Captain. The energy signatures are completely random. Their targeting computers won't be able to lock onto us. The modifications had been Carlos's idea. He had taken the engine systems from 17 different types of ships and mixed them together in ways that made no engineering sense. The result was a propulsion system that worked perfectly well but produced energy readings that changed every few seconds. "Amy, send the signal to Commander Blake. Tell him it's time for the Texas Gambit." Amy nodded and sent the coded message. Across the battlefield, Commander Tony Blake received the signal aboard his ship. The new Texas. Blake was a former asteroid miner who had converted his industrial ship into a warship by bolting weapons to the hull wherever they would fit. Blake's ship led a group of 12 converted mining vessels toward the center of the alien formation. To the Zephyrians, it looked like a desperate suicide attack. Their computers calculated that the human ships would be destroyed long before they could reach the alien fleet, but Blake wasn't planning to fight the alien ships head-on. The mining vessels were still equipped with their industrial cutting lasers designed to slice through solid rock. They were also much smaller and faster than military ships, able to change direction quickly. "Here we go," Lisa said, watching the tactical display. "Jake, prepare to execute Murphy's Gambit on my mark." The first phase of the battle was about to begin. The Zephyrians had calculated a 1.2% chance of human victory, but they had made their calculations based on conventional warfare. They had never fought an enemy that treated every rule of combat as a suggestion to be ignored. Lisa Murphy had spent her entire career proving that impossible odds were just another kind of challenge. She had learned to win by doing things that made no sense to anyone else. The aliens were about to discover that sometimes the most impossible thing to calculate is the determination of humans who refuse to lose. The alien fleet continued to close in, their crystal ships gleaming in the starlight. 3,000 vessels against 47. The odds were still impossible, but Lisa had made a career out of beating impossible odds. "All ships, this is Murphy," she announced. "Remember, they think they know what we're going to do. So let's do everything they don't expect. Execute Murphy's Gambit. Show them what humans do when someone tells us we can't win." The battle for humanity's survival was about to begin. The first shots of the battle lit up the darkness of space like fireworks. The Zephyrian fleet opened fire with their plasma cannons, sending streams of blue energy toward the scattered human ships. The alien weapons were precise and powerful, designed to destroy enemy vessels with mathematical efficiency, but the human ships were no longer where the alien computers expected them to be. Commander Tony Blake's mining vessel, the new Texas, twisted through space like a dancer avoiding laser fire. The ship's hull was covered in blast marks from previous battles, but Blake kept it moving in patterns that made no sense to the alien targeting systems. "This is Blake to all mining crews," Tony announced over the communication channel. "Remember, we're not here to fight fair, we're here to win ugly." The 12 mining ships under Blake's command had been flying together for years, working the asteroid fields beyond Mars. They knew each other's flying styles better than any military formation. When Blake banked left, the other ships followed without needing orders. When he dove toward the alien fleet, they stayed with him like a pack of wolves. The Zephyrian ships tried to intercept them, but the mining vessels were too small and fast. They slipped between the massive alien dreadnoughts like fish swimming through a net. The aliens had built their ships for long-range combat, not for dealing with enemies that got close enough to touch their hulls. Now, Blake shouted, and the mining ships activated their industrial cutting lasers. The lasers had been designed to slice through solid rock and metal ore. They were not military weapons, but they were incredibly powerful. The beams cut through the alien ship's hull, plating like knives through paper. Sparks flew as the lasers found engine components and power conduits. The first Zephyrian ship lost power and began to drift. The second ship suffered a hull breach that vented atmosphere into space. The third ship's engines exploded in a chain reaction that destroyed 2 more vessels nearby. Admiral Vexler watched the destruction from his command ship with something approaching confusion. His computers had calculated that the human mining vessels would be destroyed before they could reach his fleet. The fact that they had not only survived but were now causing significant damage did not fit any known tactical model. "Recalculate. Probability of human victory," he ordered his tactical computer. "Calculating," the computer replied in its emotionless voice. "New probability, 2.7%. The number was still low, but it was more than double the previous calculation. For a species that had conquered 17 star systems through mathematical precision, this deviation from predicted outcomes was deeply troubling. Meanwhile, Captain, Lisa Murphy was executing the second phase of her plan. While Blake's mining ships created chaos in the center of the alien formation, Lisa led the main human fleet in a wide arc around the enemy's flank. "Carlos, how are those engine modifications holding up?" she asked her chief engineer. "Perfect." "Captain, the aliens can't get a target lock on any of our ships. Their computers keep trying to predict our next move, but the random energy patterns make it impossible. The human ships move through space like ghosts, their modified engines producing energy signatures that changed every few seconds. One moment, a ship would register as a small fighter, the next it would appear to be a massive battleship. The Zephyrian targeting systems, designed to track conventional military vessels, simply could not cope with the chaos. Lieutenant Jake Barnes monitored the tactical display from his station. "Captain, the alien fleet is trying to reform their battle line. They're pulling ships back from the center to deal with our flanking maneuver," Lisa smiled. "That's exactly what we want them to do. Amy, signal Captain Price. Tell her it's time for the Dakota Wind to show these aliens what a real surprise looks like." Captain Helen Price received the message aboard her ship, the Dakota Wind. The vessel had been a cargo freighter before the war, designed to haul supplies between colonies. Now it was something entirely different. Price had filled the cargo holds with every explosive device her crew could build, from mining equipment and scrap metal. "All right, people," Price announced to her crew. "We're about to show these aliens that humans don't need fancy weapons to win a fight. Sometimes you just need to be creative." The Dakota Wind accelerated toward a group of Zephyrian cruisers. The alien ships turned their weapons toward the approaching freighter, calculating the exact moment when their fire would destroy the human vessel, but Price had no intention of ramming the alien ships. Instead, she waited until the last possible moment, then opened her cargo bay doors. Hundreds of improvised missiles poured out of the ship like angry wasps. Each missile was nothing more than a mining charge strapped to a piece of metal with a simple guidance system. But there were so many of them that the alien point defense systems were overwhelmed. The Zephyrian ships had sophisticated weapons, designed to intercept military torpedoes and guided missiles. But their computers had never encountered anything like Price's crude but effective projectiles. The alien defense systems tried to target the incoming missiles but could not process the chaotic attack patterns. Explosions bloomed across the hulls of 3 Zephyrian cruisers. The improvised weapons punched through armor plating and detonated inside the ships. One cruiser lost its main weapon systems. Another began spinning out of control with damaged engines. The third ship's bridge was destroyed, leaving it helpless and drifting. "This is price to all human ships," Helen announced over the communication channel. "Remember, we don't need to be better than them. We just need to be different than anything they've seen before." The battle was spreading across millions of cubic kilometers of space. Human ships appeared and disappeared like phantoms, striking at the alien fleet from unexpected directions. The Zephyrians tried to adapt their tactics, but every time they thought they understood the human attack patterns, the humans did something completely different. Captain Roy Carter commanded the scout ship Wildcat, a fast vessel that had been built for reconnaissance missions. Carter had been a smuggler before the war, and he knew how to avoid detection and strike from the shadows. "Jake, I'm going after their sensor platforms," Carter reported to the main fleet. "If we can blind them, this fight gets a lot easier." The Wildcat raced through the battlefield, dodging alien fire while targeting the Zephyrian sensor arrays. The alien ships relied on their advanced sensors to coordinate their attacks and maintain their formation. Without accurate sensor data, their tactical computers would be operating blind. Carter's ship was armed with nothing more than a pair of mining lasers, but he used them with surgical precision. Each sensor platform he destroyed reduced the aliens' ability to track human ships and coordinate their defense. "Target destroyed," Carter reported as another sensor array exploded. "That's number 7. How many more of these things do they have?" "Keep shooting," Lisa replied from the Defiant. "Every sensor we destroy makes it harder for them to predict our movements." The Zephyrian fleet was beginning to show signs of confusion. Ships that had been moving in perfect formation began to spread out as their commanders tried to adapt to the chaotic human tactics. Some alien vessels broke away from the main fleet entirely, attempting to engage human ships in individual combat, but the humans had no intention of fighting a fair battle. When Zephyrian ships tried to engage them directly, the human vessels simply disappeared into asteroid fields or behind space debris. The aliens would pursue, only to find themselves facing attacks from unexpected directions. Admiral Vexler studied the tactical display with growing concern. His fleet was losing ships faster than his computers had predicted. The human vessels were not following any known tactical doctrine. They appeared to be making decisions based on instinct rather than strategic planning. "Computer, analyze human tactical patterns," he ordered. "Unable to identify consistent tactical patterns," the computer replied. "Human ships appear to be operating without centralized command structure. Individual vessels are making independent decisions that do not conform to standard military doctrine." This was impossible. Every military force in the galaxy operated according to established tactical principles. Armies needed structure, hierarchy, and coordination to function effectively. The idea that a fleet could fight successfully without following basic military rules challenged everything the Zephyrians understood about warfare. "Recalculate probability of human victory," Vexler ordered. "Calculating," the computer replied. "New probability, 7.3%. The number hit Admiral Vexler like a physical blow. In less than an hour of combat, the probability of human victory had increased by more than 6 times. His fleet had lost nearly 50 ships, while the humans had lost only 8 vessels. For the first time in his military career, Admiral Vexler began to doubt the mathematical models that had guided his species to victory across 17 star systems. The humans were proving that some things in warfare could not be reduced to numbers and calculations. The battle was far from over, but the Zephyrians were learning a hard lesson. Sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one who refuses to fight by the rules. The chaos in space grew worse as the battle continued. Human ships moved through the void like deadly shadows, striking at the Zephyrian fleet from directions that made no military sense. The alien formation, once perfect and orderly, was breaking. apart as individual commanders tried to respond to threats that appeared from nowhere. Captain Lisa Murphy watched the tactical display with satisfaction. The plan was working better than she had hoped. The aliens were so focused on following their computer models that they couldn't adapt when those models proved wrong. "Jake, what's our current status?" she asked her tactical officer, Lieutenant. Jake Barnes checked his instruments. "We've destroyed 62 enemy ships and damaged at least 30 more. We've lost 11 of our own vessels, but most of the crews were rescued." Lisa nodded. The numbers were still terrible. The humans were outnumbered by more than 50 to 1, but they were making every shot count. More importantly, they were making the aliens doubt their own tactics. "Amy, patch me through to all ships." Lisa ordered. Communications Officer Amy Foster activated the fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Murphy. You're all doing great work out there. But now we need to step up the pressure. It's time to show these aliens what real chaos looks like." The human fleet had been operating in small groups, but now Lisa wanted them to act as individuals. Each ship would make its own decisions about when to attack, where to go, and how to fight. To any military planner, this would seem like madness. Armies needed coordination and structure to function, but humans had learned to fight differently during the mining wars. When corporate security forces had tried to control the asteroid belt, the miners had survived by working alone. Each ship had become a one-man army, making split-second decisions based on instinct and experience. Captain Roy Carter understood this better than anyone. His ship, the Wildcat, had been darting through the battle like a hunting animal, picking off alien sensor arrays one by one. The Zephyrians had lost most of their ability to track human movements, and Carter was about to make things even worse. "For them, this is Carter to all ships," he announced over the communication channel. "I'm going to try something new. Follow my lead if you want, but don't feel like you have to. We're all fighting our own war now." Carter's ship suddenly accelerated toward a group of Zephyrian destroyers. The alien ships turned to face him, calculating the exact moment when their combined firepower would destroy the small human vessel. But Carter had no intention of fighting them directly. Instead, he flew straight at the lead destroyer, then at the last second rolled his ship and fired his engines at full power. The Wildcat shot past the alien ship so close that its hull scraped against the destroyer's shield generators. The contact caused both ships' shields to flicker and fail. "Now!" Carter shouted, and fired his mining lasers directly into the destroyers. Exposed hull. The lasers cut through the ship's armor like it was made of paper. The destroyer's main reactor went critical and exploded, taking out 2 more alien ships in the blast. Carter's ship was thrown clear by the explosion, its hull scorched, but intact. "Carter, you crazy fool?" Lisa laughed over the communication channel. "That was completely insane." "Thank you, Captain," Carter replied. "I'll take that as a compliment." The success of Carter's attack inspired other human captains to try their own impossible maneuvers. Captain Eddie Walsh, commanding the heavy cruiser Liberty Bell, decided to test whether Zephyrian ships could handle close-quarters combat. Walsh's ship was one of the few proper military vessels in the human fleet. It had been designed for long-range battles, with heavy armor and powerful weapons. But Walsh had spent years fighting in the asteroid belt, where combat happened at knife-fighting range. "Liberty Bell to all ships," Walsh announced. "I'm going to show these aliens what happens when you bring a computer to a fist fight." The Liberty Bell charged directly at a Zephyrian battleship, ignoring the plasma fire that hammered against its shields. The alien ship was 3 times larger and carried weapons that could destroy Walsh's cruiser with a single hit. But size and firepower meant nothing if you couldn't hit your target. Walsh flew his ship like a fighter pilot, spinning and rolling to avoid the alien weapons. The Zephyrian battleship's guns were designed for long-range combat. They couldn't track a target that was moving so close and so fast. The Liberty Bell slammed into the alien ship's hull, its armored prow punching through the battleship's side armor. Walsh's ship came to rest half buried in the enemy vessel, its weapons firing directly into the alien ship's interior. "This is Walsh," he reported calmly. "I'm now inside an enemy battleship. It's surprisingly roomy in here." The Zephyrian ship tried to shake off the human cruiser, but Walsh had locked his ship's docking clamps onto the alien hull. The Liberty Bell's crew began cutting their way through the battleship's internal structure, destroying critical systems. From the inside, "Walsh, get out of there," Lisa ordered. "That ship is going to explode." "Working on it, Captain," Walsh replied. "Just need to finish some redecorating first." The Liberty Bell's weapons found the alien ship's main power core. The battleship's lights went out and it began to drift helplessly through space. Walsh finally disengaged his ship and pulled away. Just as the alien vessel's backup systems failed completely, Admiral Vexter watched the destruction of his battleship with something approaching panic. His tactical computers had calculated that the human cruiser would be destroyed long before it could reach his ship. The fact that it had not only survived, but had disabled one of his most powerful vessels was mathematically impossible. "Computer, explain how the human ship survived our defensive fire," he ordered. "Unable to explain?" the computer replied. "Human ships' movement patterns do not conform to any known tactical doctrine. Probability calculations are not applicable to irrational behavior." This was the problem that was destroying the Zephyrian fleet. Their entire military strategy was based on the assumption that enemies would behave rationally. They had conquered 17 star systems by predicting what enemy commanders would do, and countering their moves before they could make them. But humans didn't fight rationally. They fought with emotion, instinct, and pure stubborn determination. They made decisions that no computer could predict. Because those decisions were based on factors that couldn't be calculated, Lieutenant Jake Barnes had been monitoring the alien communication channels, and he had discovered something important. "Captain, I think I've figured out how their fleet coordination works. They're all connected to a central tactical network. Every ship receives orders from a single command computer." Lisa's eyes lit up with understanding. That's their weakness. If they all follow the same plan, they can't adapt when that plan fails. Exactly. And Amy's been working on something that might help us exploit that weakness. Amy Foster looked up from her communication console with a grin. "I've been analyzing their translation protocols. Their computers are designed to process logical, structured information. But human language is full of things that don't make logical sense." "What do you mean?" Lisa asked. "Idioms, metaphors, cultural references. Things that only make sense if you understand human culture. Their translation computers are trying to process every word literally, and it's causing system overloads." Amy had been experimenting with broadcasting confusing messages on the alien command frequency. Simple phrases like, "It's raining cats," and "dogs" or "break a leg" caused the Zephyrian computers to freeze up as they tried to understand why humans would discuss weather patterns involving falling animals or wish injury on their comrades. "I think I can do better than that," Amy continued. "If I can hack into their command network, I might be able to overload their entire tactical system with human cultural references." "Do it," Lisa ordered. "Let's see how their computers handle a full dose of human logic." Amy began typing rapidly. At her console, preparing a communication package that would contain every confusing human expression she could think of. Meanwhile, the battle continued to rage around them. The human ships were no longer operating as a fleet. They had become a pack of individual hunters, each one finding its own way to damage the enemy. Some ships worked together in small groups, others attacked alone. There was no overall plan, no coordinated strategy, and that was exactly why it was working. The Zephyrian fleet had been designed to fight organized enemies with predictable tactics. They had no idea how to deal with an enemy that refused to follow any rules at all. "Amy, how's that communication package coming?" Lisa asked. "Almost ready, Captain." This should cause some real confusion in their command network. Amy's fingers flew over the controls as she prepared to send the most illogical message in military history. The Zephyrian computers were about to receive a lesson in human culture that would leave them completely helpless. The battle was about to take another turn that no alien computer could possibly predict. Amy Foster's fingers moved across her console like a pianist playing a complicated song. She had spent the last 20 minutes preparing the most confusing message in the history of warfare. The communication package contained every human idiom, metaphor, and cultural reference she could remember. "Ready, Captain?" Amy reported. "This should really mess with their computers." "Send it," Lisa ordered. The message shot across space toward the Zephyrian command network. Within seconds, every alien ship in the fleet received a communication that their computers couldn't understand. The translation systems tried to process phrases like, "Don't count your chickens before they hatch," and "the early bird catches the worm," and "when pigs fly." The Zephyrian computers had been designed to handle logical, straightforward communication. They were not prepared for human language that said one thing but meant something completely different. The phrase, "break a leg," sent the computers into loops as they tried to figure out why humans would wish bone fractures on their friends. Admiral Vexler watched his tactical display with growing alarm as ship after ship reported communication errors. The central command network that coordinated his entire fleet was crashing as the computers tried to understand why humans talked about spilling beans and letting cats out of bags. "Computer, explain communication malfunction," Vexler ordered. "Unable to process human linguistic patterns," his command computer replied, its voice stuttering slightly. "Human communication contains multiple layers of meaning that contradict literal interpretation. System overload imminent." On the human ships, the crews could see the immediate effect of Amy's attack. The Zephyrian fleet, which had been moving in coordinated formations, suddenly became confused and disorganized. Ships began flying in circles as their navigation computers tried to follow orders that no longer made sense. "It's working," Jake Barnes reported from his tactical station. "Their formation is completely broken. Ships are losing coordination across their entire fleet." Lisa smiled grimly. "Now we hit them while they're confused. All ships, this is Murphy. The aliens are blind and deaf. Time to show them what humans do when we smell blood in the water." The human fleet struck like a pack of wolves attacking a confused herd. With the Zephyrian command network crippled, individual alien ships found themselves facing enemies they couldn't predict or coordinate against. Captain Tony Blake led his mining ships in a devastating attack on a group of Zephyrian cruisers. The alien ships tried to form a defensive line, but without their tactical computers, they couldn't coordinate their movements. Blake's ships slipped between them like ghosts, their cutting lasers slicing through hull plating and engine components. "This is like shooting fish in a barrel," Blake reported over the communication channel. "Except the fish can't swim and the barrel is on fire." Meanwhile, Captain Helen Price was having the time of her life aboard the Dakota Wind. With the alien point defense systems confused and uncoordinated, her improvised missiles were finding their targets easily. "Come on, you oversized crystal buckets," Price shouted as she launched another wave of mining charges. "Let's see how your fancy computers handle good old-fashioned human explosives." The improvised weapons hammered into alien ships that could no longer defend themselves properly. Explosions bloomed across the Zephyrian fleet as Price's crude but effective missiles found weak points in enemy armor. But the most devastating attack came from an unexpected source. Captain Eddie Walsh, still inside the disabled Zephyrian battleship with his cruiser Liberty Bell, had discovered something important about alien ship design. "Murphy, this is Walsh," he reported over the communication channel. "I'm looking at the alien ship's internal structure, and I think I've found something interesting. These ships are all connected to each other through some kind of quantum communication network." "What does that mean?" Lisa asked. "It means that if I can access their network from inside this ship, I might be able to send our confusion directly into every alien vessel in the fleet." Lisa understood immediately. "Do it, Amy. Help Walsh upload your linguistic virus directly into their quantum network." Amy began working with Walsh to transfer her collection of confusing human phrases directly into the Zephyrian fleet's communication system. Within minutes, every alien ship was receiving a constant stream of human idioms, jokes, and cultural references that their computers couldn't process. The effect was immediate and devastating. Across the alien fleet, tactical computers began shutting down to prevent system damage. Navigation computers stopped working as they tried to understand directions like hang a left at the light and go straight until you hit the wall. Computer. Systems failing fleet-wide, reported Admiral Vexler as tactical officer. Unable to maintain formation or coordinate defensive actions. For the first time in his military career, Admiral Vexler felt something he had never experienced before: panic. His fleet of 3,000 ships was being destroyed by a handful of humans who refused to fight, according to any logical plan. Recalculate. Probability of human victory, he ordered desperately. Unable to calculate, his computer replied. Human tactical behavior does not conform to any mathematical model. Probability calculations are meaningless when applied to irrational actions. The admission hit Vexler like a physical blow. His entire species had built their military might on the foundation of mathematical certainty. The idea that some things couldn't be calculated was more terrifying than any weapon. With their command network crippled, individual Zephyrian ships began to panic. Some tried to retreat, others attempted to fight alone, and a few simply shut down their engines and waited for orders that would never come. The human ships pressed their advantage mercilessly. Captain Roy Carter's scout ship Wildcat darted through the confused alien formation, picking off ships that had lost their defensive coordination. Captain Walsh finally extracted his cruiser from the disabled battleship and began hunting larger prey. "This is too easy now," Carter reported. "It's like they've all forgotten how to fight." But Lisa knew the battle wasn't over yet. The Zephyrians still had more ships and firepower. If they could regain their coordination, they could still win through sheer numbers. "Don't get overconfident," she warned her fleet. "They still outnumber us badly. We need to end this before they figure out how to adapt." As if responding to her words, some of the Zephyrian ships began to recover. A few alien commanders had shut down their communication systems entirely, cutting themselves off from the confused network. These ships began to fight independently, using their own tactical computers instead of relying on the central command system. "Captain, I'm seeing some alien ships regaining coordination," Jake Barnes reported. "They're learning to ignore their central network," Lisa nodded. She had expected this. The Zephyrians were intelligent, and they would eventually adapt to human tactics. But she had one more surprise planned. "Amy, how long until you can overload their quantum network completely?" "Give me 5 more minutes," Amy replied. "I'm uploading every joke, riddle, and pun I can think of. Their computers are going to have nervous breakdowns trying to understand why humans think puns are funny." While Amy worked her electronic magic, the battle continued to rage. Human ships struck at confused alien vessels while trying to avoid the few Zephyrian ships that had regained their coordination. Captain Price found herself facing one of these recovered alien cruisers. The enemy ship had cut itself off from the central network and was fighting with deadly efficiency. Its weapons locked onto the Dakota Wind and began firing. "This one's got its act together," Price reported as plasma bolts hammered her ship's shields. "I need some help over here." Captain Blake's mining ship New Texas came to her rescue, slipping up behind the alien cruiser and cutting through its engine mounts with industrial lasers. The enemy ship lost power and began to drift helplessly. "Thanks, Blake," Price said. "I owe you a beer when this is over." "Make it 2 beers," Blake replied. "This is thirsty work." But even as the humans celebrated small victories, Admiral Vexler was developing a new strategy. If his fleet couldn't coordinate through their quantum network, he would have to rely on something else, the one advantage the Zephyrians still possessed. "All ships," he broadcast on an emergency frequency that bypassed the central network, "ignore computer tactical systems. Fight independently. Use superior numbers to overwhelm human vessels. Victory through attrition." The order spread through the alien fleet ship by ship. The Zephyrians began to abandon their sophisticated tactics in favor of simple, brutal assault. If they couldn't outthink the humans, they would try to outfight them through sheer numbers. Lisa saw the change immediately on her tactical display. The alien ships were forming into smaller groups and attacking with raw aggression instead of calculated precision. They're adapting, she told her crew. Time for the final phase of our plan. The most dangerous part of the battle was about to begin. The final phase of the battle began with the Zephyrian fleet abandoning everything that had made them successful. Without their computer networks and tactical coordination, they fought like angry animals instead of the disciplined military force that had conquered 17 star systems. Captain Lisa Murphy watched the tactical display as groups of alien ships charged toward her fleet with no plan except to destroy as many human vessels as possible before they died. It was exactly what she had been waiting for. All ships, this is Murphy, she announced over the communication channel. They're fighting angry now instead of smart. That makes them dangerous, but also predictable. Stay calm and stick to the plan. The plan was simple but risky. Lisa had noticed something about the Zephyrian fleet formation during the battle. Their command ship, the massive vessel where Admiral Vexler directed the alien fleet, was protected by layers of smaller ships. But those protective ships were now scattered and confused, leaving gaps in their defense. Jake, I need you to calculate the shield timing on that command ship, Lisa ordered her tactical officer. Lieutenant Jake Barnes studied the readings from the alien flagship. Captain, their shields are massive. Our weapons can't penetrate them directly. I'm not looking to penetrate them, Lisa replied. I'm looking for the moment when they cycle for recharge. Every shield system has to reset itself periodically. Jake worked at his console for several minutes, analyzing the energy patterns from the Zephyrian command ship. There, he said finally. Every 47 seconds, their shields drop for exactly 0.3 seconds while the generators reset. But Captain, that's not enough time to do any real damage, Lisa smiled. It is if you're not planning to survive the attack. The bridge of the Defend fell silent as the crew realized what their captain was suggesting. She was planning a suicide run against the alien command ship, betting everything on a window of opportunity that lasted less than half a second. Captain, Chief Engineer Carlos Rodriguez said quietly, the ship won't survive that kind of attack. Even if we destroy their flagship, we'll be destroyed in the explosion. Maybe, Lisa replied. But if we take out their admiral and his command ship, the rest of their fleet will fall apart. Sometimes you have to risk everything to save everything. Communications. Officer Amy Foster looked up from her station. Captain, I've been monitoring alien communications. Their admiral is trying to coordinate the fleet manually now. If we can eliminate him, their ships will have no leadership at all, Lisa nodded. That's what I'm counting on. Amy, send a message to all ships. Tell them to prepare for the final assault, and tell them it's been an honor to serve with them. Across the human fleet, captains received Lisa's message with a mixture of pride and sadness. They all understood what she was planning to do. Captain Tony Blake aboard the New Texas was the first to respond. Murphy, this is Blake. You're not going in there alone. The mining crews are with you. Same here, added Captain Helen Price from the Dakota Wind. If you're making a final run, we're coming too. One by one, every remaining human ship volunteered to join the attack. They all knew it was probably a suicide mission, but they also knew it was their only chance to win the battle and save humanity. You're all crazy, Lisa said, her voice thick with emotion. And I wouldn't have it any other way. The human fleet began to move toward the Zephyrian command ship. The alien vessels tried to intercept them, but they were too disorganized and scattered. Individual Zephyrian ships fought desperately, but without coordination. They couldn't stop the determined human advance. Captain Roy Carter's scout ship Wildcat led the way, using its speed and maneuverability to clear a path through the alien defenders. Behind him came the heavier ships, their weapons blazing as they fought through waves of enemy fire. This is Carter, the scout captain reported. I'm seeing heavy resistance, but we're getting through. The alien ships are fighting individually. Now, they can't coordinate their defense. Captain Eddie Walsh brought his battle-scarred cruiser Liberty Bell alongside the Defiant. Murphy, let us take the lead. Our armor is heavier. We can absorb more damage. Negative, Walsh, Lisa replied. This is my plan and my responsibility. Besides, the Defiant has something the rest of you don't have. What's that? Walsh asked. Lisa looked at Amy Foster, who was preparing a special communication package. We have Amy's secret weapon. She's been working on something that should give us the edge we need. Amy had been busy during the battle, analyzing the Zephyrian command ship's communication systems. She had discovered that the alien flagship was still connected to the quantum network, even though most of the fleet had shut down their connections. Captain, I think I can overload their entire command structure with one final transmission, Amy reported. But I need to be close to their ship for it to work. How close? Lisa asked. Close enough to shake hands. Lisa understood. They would have to get within a few hundred meters of the alien flagship to upload Amy's virus directly into their systems. At that range, both ships would probably be destroyed by the explosion. Do it, Lisa ordered. If we're going out, let's make it count. The Defiant and its escort ships pushed through the final layer of alien defenders. The Zephyrian command ship loomed ahead of them, a massive crystal structure that dwarfed even the largest human vessels. Its weapons were already turning toward the approaching human ships. 30 seconds to shield cycle, Jake Barnes reported. His voice steady despite the danger. The alien flagship opened fire with everything it had. Plasma bolts and energy beams hammered against the human ship's shields. The destroyer Rough Justice, commanded by Captain Nina Ford, took a direct hit and exploded in a ball of fire. Ford's ship is gone, Jake reported grimly. Keep going, Lisa ordered. Don't let her sacrifice be for nothing. More human ships died as they approached the alien flagship. The converted freighter Mountain View disintegrated under alien fire. The mining ship Desert Rose lost its engines and began to drift helplessly through space. 15 seconds to shield cycle, Jake announced. The Defiant shuddered as alien weapons found their mark. The bridge lights flickered and smoke began to fill the air. Carlos Rodriguez worked frantically at his engineering console, trying to keep the ship's systems functioning. Engines at 60%, he reported. Hull breaches on decks 4 and 7. We're losing life support in the aft sections. 10 seconds. Jake called out. Admiral Vexler watched the human ships approaching his flagship with something approaching admiration. He had never seen such determination in the face of certain death. The humans knew they couldn't win, but they kept fighting anyway. 5 seconds, Jake said, his hand hovering over the weapons controls. Lisa watched the tactical display, waiting for the moment when the alien shields would drop. Everything depended on perfect timing. Too early, and their weapons would be useless. Too late, and they would be destroyed before they could fire. Now, Jake shouted. The Defiant fired every weapon it had at the exact moment the alien shields flickered off. Energy beams and missiles streaked toward the command ship's hull. At the same time, Amy transmitted her linguistic virus directly into the alien ship's quantum network. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The virus spread through the Zephyrian ship's computer systems like wildfire, crashing every connected system. The alien flagship's weapons stopped firing, its engines shut down, and its life support systems began to fail. Direct hit, Jake reported. Their ship is losing power across all systems, but the victory came at a terrible cost. The alien ship's damaged reactors went critical, and a massive explosion tore through both vessels. The Defiant was caught in the blast wave and began to break apart. All hands abandoned ship, Lisa ordered. As the human crews escaped in life pods, they watched the alien command ship die. Admiral Vexler's flagship broke into pieces, taking the alien leader and his tactical computers with it. Across the battlefield, the remaining Zephyrian ships stopped fighting. Without their admiral and their command structure, they had no idea what to do. One by one, they began to withdraw from the battle, disappearing into hyperspace. Captain Tony Blake, now the senior surviving human officer, watched the alien retreat from his damaged mining ship. This is Blake to all human vessels. The aliens are retreating. We won. The celebration was quiet and brief. Too many good people had died to make victory possible. But humanity had proven something important that day. Sometimes the most impossible odds hide the only path to victory. Later, as rescue ships arrived to collect survivors, a final message came from the retreating Zephyrian fleet. It was from Admiral Vexler, transmitted just before his ship exploded. "Captain Murphy," the alien commander's voice said through the translator, "our calculations were incomplete. We failed to account for the variable of hope. This oversight has been educational." Lisa Murphy, floating in a life pod among the debris of two fleets, smiled as she listened to the message. Sometimes the most important victories were the ones that shouldn't be possible. The humans had taught the galaxy a valuable lesson. Mathematics and probability were powerful tools, but they couldn't measure the determination of people who refused to surrender. When faced with impossible odds, humans didn't calculate their chances of survival, they just fought harder.